Today I'm going to show you how you can paint spring flowers with watercolors. This is a video I made for you in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. So I decided to just take an image of the phone and the watercolors I bought here. They come from Russia. Then the aqua brush, and a pencil to make a quick sketch. So I just copied the image and I adjusted the size of the image to the screen so you can see it. But of course you can work on a larger scale, and I would suggest that you take your entire visual journal page. Ideally, you just sketch your little images very lightly. Make sure that you don't press very hard so that you don't see the lines later. It's just to give you some kind of an orientation. And ideally, you take flowers that really exist here in Mongolia. There are no flowers yet, or very few, so that I just took a picture now. I started to use the greens for the leaves, and I covered just randomly some green parts here. They more or less follow the photograph that I just showed you on my phone, but it's also very independently made, so I don't stick to this very exactly, just a little bit wherever I think it makes sense to put some greens. And then I decided to go with the little petals first. Basically, the flowers themselves make a lot of sense to integrate them now, because you have to leave some empty space. With watercolors, especially when you work with the wet and wet technique, you can't really go over the wet parts because everything flows into each other. You see this already on the top part a little bit, but that's also the intention that, with watercolors, you want to have this effect of a coincidental action that you only partly steer, and it's partly just like something that you can't really define ahead. So you see that I use a bigger brush to just stick to a rougher brush stroke, not to be so exact, but a bit more abstract. And to just put down the petals first, I use purple and blue. And now I just use the same brush. I didn't even clean it. And I just used the blue and went into the green. And that's why I get this kind of dark green turquoisey color. I just continue to fill the empty spaces with different parts of petals and leaves. And here there come the flower stems. And I decide to take a darker green or almost black in order to make this visible. That the stems, they have to be actually stick out a little bit of the composition and from the background. And now you can see I decided on the right hand side that I put down the colors that I used, something like my mixing palette, for you to see which colors did I actually pick to put my composition together. And since I don't clean the brush, you see that I get a lot of different green tones, and I think this actually makes a lot of sense, because in nature you also have tons of different greens. So here I use black or very dark green, and I'm using this also to put some emphasis on some parts here in the shade, to just make it a bit more defined. And here you can also see now how the different colors flow into each other and how nice it actually looks, like an aquarelle painting. And that's also how it's intended to be. When it dries, it's very beautiful. You'll be able to see this soon, because I'll post a picture also when I upload the video, and you see when the entire artwork looks when it's dried, because then actually you can only make out the proper blotches and things like this. I also mixed with a little bit of white to just kind of change the very flat bluish and purplish colors of the petals. But since it's a wet and wet technique, it didn't work so well with the white. It's also something you can think about adding later. If you go back to the movie and you look at the original picture, you see that there are some little reflections of water drops. Okay, and here's another example that I made. There's white flowers, and I hope you enjoyed the video.